fellow travelers, and welcome to the Versus Stars podcast. Are my loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support. And remember, click the subscribe button, everybody. This is a very special episode because Celia Rose Gooding boards the mothership. You know her from Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Come aboard as we go traversing the stars. Hello, Miss Gooding. Thank you so much for coming to the Versus Stars podcast.
Hi, happy to be here.
It's an absolute honor. Me and my wife love watching Strange New Worlds, so it's fantastic to have you on the show.
Thank you.
So I always start off with the question of inspiration. So what inspired your love for acting and who your earliest influences?
What inspired my love for acting? Oh God, where to begin? I find myself to be a serial escapist, whether that's the Pisces in me or just the nature of who I am. I think that acting requires an ability to leave the self and step into another person. And like, as someone who was playing with like dolls and dollhouses probably much later in life than the average child should or does, something about just storytelling and taking on different personas, like different hats, that really just spoke to me and was very attractive to me. I just, the serial escapist in me found acting in theater, because that's my background. I have a theater background. That was just so attractive to me, like a magnet attracts another. It just worked. And some of my earliest inspirations, my mom, she is a pillar in the theater community, especially within the Black theater community. And so watching her really just inspired me to dream big and reach bigger. And now some inspirations that I have: Lupita Nyong'o, Kiki Palmer, Sonequa Martin Green, Adrienne Warren, Dominique Jackson. My God, so many just incredible Black women and femmes who I look up to hard. Did I say Kiki Palmer? Issa Rae.
Yes.
I could just go down the list of people who inspire me, but those are just some. Just knowing what it feels like to have the experience of a Black woman in this world and know what the industry looks like from that scope. People who have that lived experience and have reached such incredible heights and have broken history, and all of that is just incredibly inspiring to me.
So when you said your mother's a pillar in the theater community, does that mean when you decided to go into acting, there never was a question that this is a possible reachable goal, or did you already just know this is something that can happen?
I always thought it was something that could happen. I just didn't think it was going to until it did. I firmly believe that I was always going to be an artist. What kind? That was sort of the questionable thing. I loved acting. I always loved singing. I loved dancing, and just creativity and entertainment was something that I just found my home in. I wasn't a very academically inclined person. I wasn't a very athletically inclined person. And so the arts was sort of where all of my, like, if we were building a video game character, all of my little power cubes would be in arts. Like we'll have one in academics, maybe half of one in athletics, but like the other 95% of my power cubes, I guess, would be in arts. And that's where my home is. So yeah, it was always going to happen. It was just a question of to what level and in what discipline.
So, I mean, everyone now knows you from Star Trek Strange New Worlds as now Ensign Uhura, which before was cadet, so you got promoted. Congratulations.
Thank you. Very proud of our girl.
So how did you first become involved in the series?
Yeah, I got started with Strange New Worlds through an audition. My agent sent me an email and was like, "Hey, you got an audition." And I'm, as someone who's doing the Zoom audition boogaloo of 2020, it was just something that it wasn't called Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I actually don't recall if I even knew it was a Star Trek show beforehand. No, I did beforehand, but I had no idea who I was playing. I didn't know I was playing Nyota Uhura. They gave me a a fake name. They gave me Yaboa. That was her name instead of Uhura. And she was described as a young, gifted linguist who just didn't know their power yet. And that was really attractive to me as someone who knows their power, but I don't think I've touched the full scope of it yet. At least I hope not this early in life. But yeah, that was how I started, and they just, I guess they liked what I had to offer and what I was bringing to this character, because I had no idea that I was playing Uhura. And so they just liked my spin on who she was in their mind, and it's been wheels up ever since. Now they'll never get rid of me.
That's crazy that you're auditioning for a role of a very famous character, but you don't know that you're playing her, but yet you're still kind of trying to find that element of her. It's like a weird trick to trying to play in that
No, it
level.
is, but I think I know Ethan Peck, who's our Spock. He went through a similar experience auditioning where they didn't tell him that he was playing Spock. He was just playing a Vulcan science officer. And he was also given a fake name, but I think the genius part of not telling us was that we didn't put on airs, or we didn't like try and be the person. We just showed up as actors doing our job, and then they were like, what you're doing here is perfect for this character, and they did the marrying of the two. But I sort of just showed up, my little Zoom thing at 3:00 in the morning with my best friend. I was up on this backdrop, but it was red instead of blue, which is so funny because I ended up wearing that was my color, engineering scarlet. And yeah, it wheels up ever since.
Now, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know if they said or not or didn't say it, but did they know or did they tell you which element in that auditioning was that kernel of Uhura that they felt you nailed?
I think it was something about my inquisitiveness, just my curiosity, and I guess something about my face gives very newbie. Something about what I was doing just gave because I wasn't quite familiar with Star Trek when I was initially auditioning, and so I was just sort of like doing what I think a Starfleet officer should do, and I think that was what they were looking for in a young Uhura, someone who isn't super Starfleet, someone who's still sort of figuring it out and just sort of trying really hard to look like they know what they're doing when she might not. But yeah, I think that was it. And I think part of my theater background, playing a character or reprising a character who was also played by someone with a theater background, I'm sure that was definitely taken into account. If not, they really lucked out. But I think that was what it is. I never asked, or I don't think anyone ever told me what it was, because I think part of me doesn't want to know. Just because then I'm gonna like really hammer in that, and that's not gonna be authentic to where she is now. But I like to think it was my curiosity and my killer attitude.
So what was your reaction when you found out you were playing the famous character, one of the most famous characters out of Star Trek?
I'll paint the picture for you because it was a crazy day. I had gotten into a very minor car accident several hours before I got the call. So I was in a pretty terrible mood, honestly. I am someone who I'm really trying to get better at not having like black and white thinking of like, if I have one bad moment in the day, the whole day is ruined and I just have to start it over.
Yeah.
That was how I was feeling. I was like, you know what? It's 7:00. I'm not in a great mood. I'm just gonna call it and go to bed and try again tomorrow. And I remember sitting in bed, just stewing and being moody as I am sometimes. And my mom was calling me. She's like, Celia. I'm like, yes. And she was like, come downstairs. You have a package. I'm like, it's 8:00. UPS is the United States Postal Service. Them workers are home. I don't got a package. So I had a little bit of an attitude, and I was in like, I didn't realize that she was recording, and I was in like old makeup stained softball pants and like a ratty t-shirt. I was in my pajamas.
Yeah.
Bad mood in my pajamas, being asked to come downstairs for a package that I know isn't an actual package. I wasn't having it. And I see my agent and his husband, and it took me a second to like realize what was happening. I remember just seeing him and being like, oh my God, hi, you're in my house for the first time, maybe ever. And he like slowly raises a bottle of champagne, and I just like start screaming. Like the crying came. I was just running around my house screaming, no, not this. Can't be the way the day went before my life changes. No. And he let me know that I'm gonna be on Star Trek, and I just like fell to my knees and screamed. And then I started crying, and then I realized, oh my God, I have to move to Toronto I have to move to another country by myself because it's the middle of the pandemic and the country is closed. So my mom isn't going to be able to come with me. My sister isn't going to be able to come with me. I'm going to have to do it by myself. And in like 2 weeks, I got to go. And so then we just like sat at my dining room table and like had some champagne. And I just like was moving between like sobbing and giggling hysterically. Like I think my brain was just like flooded with endorphins, and my body didn't know how to process it, so it was just a lot of expelling of feelings, whether that be through tears or laughter or screaming. And yeah, then I slept the hardest I'd ever slept in my entire life, and moved some days later and lived by myself, really by myself for the first time in my adult life. But yeah, that's how that went.
What a weird balance of fortune, from a car accident to, at the moment, the biggest role in your life on the same day.
Yeah. That's why I was so shocked. I was like, no. I was in such a place of like, I had to sort of pull my body out of that bad attitude and be like, hey baby, your life is changing today. Smile. That's how it went, man. Life is funny.
I mean, it's so awesome. And then, like I said, you are playing Nichelle, the character that Nichelle Nichols famously played in Star Trek, in the movies, in the original series. When did it hit you just the magnitude of the character? And when you went looking back at what Nichelle Nichols had done, how did you kind of want to honor the performance, but at the same time, you got to make it your own because you can't just mimic somebody else? Yeah. So how did you? I mean, that's a lot to take in your head. So how did you put it all together?
I don't think I put it all the way together yet. I think I'm really trying to operate from a space of patience with myself and just kindness to myself, simply because this is my first time ever doing something like this, reprising an iconic character. This is the first time anyone has ever done something like this. No one has ever played Uhura as a cadet before or an ensign before. Uhura has always been played as a lieutenant or a commanding officer or a captain. She's ever been played as the beginning stages before. So I have to have a lot of patience with myself because it's uncharted territory, and I'm doing it, of course, with an incredibly creative team and an incredible team of writers who take such good care of my baby being Uhura, myself also. It's interesting to like think of Uhura as someone who is not me, but is played by me, so is kind of me a little bit. It's just a fun little brain game that I'll have to play actor for the rest of my life. But yeah, I haven't put it all the way together yet. I think what I wanted to do when I realized that this was my task, I really wanted to take my time. Because like you said, I don't want to just be an imitation or be just a carbon copy of the Uhura that we all know and love, because then there'd be no reason to bring your character back. If we're not doing anything new, it was never broken, so don't try and like just do it again for the sake of doing it again. No, the task at hand was to bring something new and to bring something different. And I think part of me had a really hard time reminding myself that I was worthy of trying new things with this character, simply because she is so beloved and so incredibly iconic and played by a pillar in this industry, in the franchise, but also in the industry beyond. Just like Nichelle Nichols is a class act of having a platform and doing something in it, doing something with it, not just in the entertainment industry. Right. Her initiatives with NASA, like her wingspan reaches so much farther than just this industry. And my understanding of that was like, at first, my first instinct was to be like, how am I going to be able to do that? And then I realized I'm not. I do not have to, and that is okay. That has been the thing of like, how do I honor Nichelle's legacy, is just by giving myself the patience and grace and understanding that I don't think was allowed to her because of the climate of what the 60s looked like as Black women. And just knowing her history within the franchise, her first feelings of maybe not even wanting to continue on with Star Trek, and then having to be inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. To say, hey, no, we need you, to just honor every feeling that I've been having in this experience, the good, the bad, and the confusing. I think I had a moment recently, very recently, like almost a couple months ago, that really took me aback and gave me that feeling for the first time of like what my iteration of Uhura may mean to people. And excuse me if I get a little emotional, just because it always happens when I talk about me possibly meaning anything to anyone, Jesus. But a father-daughter duo, I'm not gonna give the Instagram just to keep them anonymous, but they tagged me in pictures of them at this convention, this like lovely father-daughter cosplay duo, young Black family, and this young kid had their hair, ew, I'm gonna cry. This young kid had their hair cut super short, like my Caesar cut, like real close to the skin. And was in the Uhura Scarlet, and was really like my baldy Uhura, as I call her affectionately and lovingly, my sweet baldy baby. And that was when I would just, it wasn't, when I see Uhura cosplays, I often see them as Nichelle or Zoe, and that's wonderful. I there have been many iterations of this character, and so I'm very comfortable and truly quite content with the possibility that like my version of Uhura is going to live within me, and that's it, and that's fine. But seeing this young kid dressed up as me, I was like, I cried so hard. Just because any father-daughter duo, especially Black father-daughter duos, I'm a mess. But I don't know, it just really struck me to see this young kid dressed up as me, walking through convention halls, just giggly and bright and smiley, and just like reminding me so much of a younger version of myself before people told me who I had to be, or before just being like influenced by understanding the world around me. But before that, when I was just a kid, just being a kid, like seeing a kid just be a kid, but also dressed up like me, it was just like, again, I was a mess. I was a bawling mess. It was so beautiful and touched me so dearly. It was a wonderfully beautiful moment. And the dad DM, I hearted it because I was like, this is so moving to me, and you have no idea what this means to me. And he DM'd me back, and then we had like a brief conversation, but I don't know. It's very, the easy thing as an actor is to just do your job and then tune out all the noise and just say, I'm doing a job because it's the job that I do. And if people have opinions on it, that's fine. And sometimes I have to do that, but the times where I can actually like tap in and get a glimpse of what my impact looks like, it boggles the mind. It really does just like throw me for a loop a little bit, just because it's hard to conceptualize what one means to other people, especially just like, because at the end of the day, I'm just doing this because I love to do it, and I literally can't do anything else. Like, I literally can't do anything else but be an artist, be an actor, be a creative. It's in my bones. And so to know that the thing that I'm meant to do and the thing that I'm doing for a living is something that inspires anyone, anywhere, that it makes my heart sing, because it reminds me of a young version of myself dressing up as Disney princesses and feeling seen and honored and seen and valued, and knowing that that representation means that there was something inherently in me that needed to be represented. Like that is wild to think about and crazier to say, but I don't know. I that was one thing that I'm gonna carry with me forever, because it was the first time ever seeing somebody dressed up as my Uhura, as my Uhura. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just love how Star Trek: Changing Worlds is developing the character. There was a scene in episode 2 that we just had in Star Trek between your character and Christina Chong's character, La'an Noonien-Singh, where Leanne's like, I need access to personal files, whatever. And your character's like, no, that's not happening. That's bad for you. It's bad for me. It's illegal. And I thought to myself, Cadet Uhura never would have in a million years have said that. But Ensign Uhura put her foot down and said no. So can you kind of go into a little bit about the growth of the character and the ramifications of that moment, not only in the crew, but for her as a character?
Yeah, I so much conversation and real thinking of that scene. That was like, Uhura's not in a lot of that episode, at least not vocally. She spends a lot of time just watching the trial, but that scene with her and La'an was such a like moment to telegraph where she is now.
Yeah.
Her ability to be like, I understand this is what you want, and I understand that this is important to you, but you're important to me. And just as you helped me save our collective lives last season when we were in that cave and with the comet, you like I love Uhura and La'an's relationship so much, because I love just like a grumpy sunshine trope. Love that. But I don't know. I just love Christina. Christina's such a fun person to play with because she's such a phenomenal actor. But she's also just such a light and giggly energy when the camera's cut off, and then when they're on, when she gets all real serious, it's just wonderful to watch and really inspiring as an actor to see somebody do duality so well. But yeah, so much of the conversation was about like, how does Uhura maintain her kindness and her approachability and the things that make her so lovely and her, while also putting her foot down? Because this is really one of the first times, except in the first episode of season 2, where she tells that maintenance guy to F off. The second episode, we see her really tenderly take a step up and say, I'm not in a position to be pushed around anymore. Like, I'm not the girl in the mess hall who you handed a pile of data chips to and said, go fetch.
Right,
Like,
right.
I'm not that kid anymore. I have weight and I hold weight here, and I care about you, sir. I do. And I'm doing this for you. It was almost a moment of tough love, like that same tough love that La'an gives Uhura in the first season. We almost flip it a little bit. Not nearly as tough, but still just as much love. And yeah, so much of the conversation between me, Christina, and our director, Valerie Weiss, excuse me. We did so much talk of like, this is a big deal. It's going to be really short. It's going to be really concise, especially within the editing of this massive feast of an episode. So we got to really nail this in the short, truncated time. And the thing that I kept, like the phrase that I kept looping in my head to keep myself in the moment is that, but you are to me.
Yep.
Like, I'm not doing this to be difficult. I as a character am having a really hard time standing up to you because you are one of the more intimidating officers within our bridge crew, if not the most intimidating officer within our bridge crew. Besides, well, Babs is a bridge, but yeah. To do that tough thing and just know where that sits in the body and having to like sit in that discomfort and know it and communicate it. It was so wonderful to play both of those things, like the Uhura in her early stages still being quite insecure and still just trying to figure it out, but canonically that's her first time standing up to a commanding officer. And while fans and audience members and viewers of the show may not have caught it, as an actor, that was a big deal. A big old deal for my sweet star seeker. She that was hard for her. And so yeah, it was wonderful to play and just a really yummy moment for me to continue to telegraph Uhura's confidence. We'll get closer and closer to the version of her that exists as Lieutenant Uhura, the Lieutenant Uhura. But right now we're just like slowly but surely getting there. And those little wins, those little incremental wins were just great to play.
So can you tell our listeners like what kind of development we can see from your character going forward in the, was it 7 more episodes of the season?
Yeah, I would say characters can look forward. Yeah, I can say that audiences can look forward to an Uhura who is just every day falling more and more into herself, falling deeper and deeper into care and love and respect for herself. Like she is slowly but surely growing into the person and the character that we all know and love. But it's not all getting done in season 2. My dream is to have a bunch of seasons of this show, and every season is going to just be another step and another step and another step. But season 2, we really get to see her flex her muscles. We see her really taken out of her comfort zone in this season, but we really see her in her comfort zone where she gets to just shine and fly and be her best self. And I just can't wait for people to see it because it was so gratifying to play.
It's going to be an absolute honor to speak with you. You're a great joy, and like you said, I'm loving your character on Star Trek: Changing Worlds. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy to speak to you.